Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I wanted to do a quick presentation-ish type thing. So the meta right now is definitely tanks. You're seeing a lot of tanks in solo queue and in competitive play. And there's been a lot of hubbub, whether it's on Reddit or on forums or on some of the comments of my videos about how overpowered some of these tanks are. You know, talking about Nasus, Dr. Mundo, Shyvana. You know, a lot of the top laners and junglers right now are very beefy tanks. And so one of the things about this is whenever you have a shift in the meta, there's always counter shifting and counter pushing. And one of the best ways to deal with it, instead of trying to play the same champions you played in the old meta, in the new meta, and just kind of running and getting your head butted in, the best thing to do oftentimes is to be willing to adapt and be willing to shift your playstyle a little bit to deal with tanks. So I'm going to present a little video. I got 3 champions here that are really good with tanks, and I want to give my arguments on as to why they're really good and why you should play them. So first of all, let's talk about why tanks are so good right now. There's been a number of factors that have really contributed to this in the preseason. First of all, the defensive masteries have proved to be really, really strong, especially in the lower tier. Once you get past 9 points, 15 to 21 points in the defense tree, maybe even higher. I've ran 26 or even 30 points on some of my tanks. They're really, really good. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, specifically the Perseverance, the Regen Masteries, especially for tanks who have some sort of self-healing. It makes them really, really good. There just are a lot of really, really good points, very strong points in the defensive masteries. Also, itemization is really good for tanks right now. You've got a lot of really good tank items. They did just get nerfed a little bit, the core being the Sunfire Cape and Spirit Visage. That with those 2 items, first of all, you get really, it helps you through your laning phase. Sunfire Cape is one of the best laning items for a tank in the top lane. It helps you scrap with another melee just because it gives you a lot of very persistent damage. And tanks tend to, it takes persistent damage to kill them. So if you're also dealing persistent damage back, it just makes it very hard to kill. You're getting a nice mix of health and armor and magic resist, so there's really, you don't have any sort of weakness in terms of damage that can kill you, because you're resistant to pretty much every type of damage. And it just gives it's a perfect little ball of stats. Other things like Randuin's is really good, even like Thornmill, Frozen Heart, they're just a lot of really good tank items right now. Also, a lot of people are saying that AD carries are in a bit of a weak spot. Now, this is kind of in response to tanks being so good, but there's a lot of factors going into this. AD carries have stagnated a little bit in terms of their ability to deal with tanks. A lot of the strong hyper carries have been nerfed, specifically Vayne. She was a very, very strong pick towards the end of Season 3. She's been a little bit less so. She got a couple of nerfs to her Condemn, and her laning has gotten even worse. Because, you've got some of the strongest AD carries like Jinx and Lucian. Sivir are very good lane bullies against her. Also, with supports being even stronger, getting more gold, this oftentimes means you've got an Annie or a Thresh or a Taric or a Leona that are, capable of either one-shotting you or getting on top of you and chain CCing you. So, just the AD carry position right now is a little bit weak. And AD carries are the best champions to deal with tanks. Also, games are tending to last longer. A lot of this is part of the vision changes. Choking out vision was one of the best ways to win a game. If you got ahead, you could get an Oracles and a couple Pink Wards, and you can just completely deny the enemy team of vision and force them to come face check Baron and then just kill them. But no longer can you do that. A lot of times now teams are just kind of stalling the game out because they both see each other, but they aren't removing vision from each other. So this allows tanks to hyperscale into the late game. Also, tanks are really, really good against assassins. If you notice towards the end of Season 3 in the World Championships, a lot of assassins were very strong picks. Some of them have been nerfed. And also, tanks just in general are really, really good against assassins. And also, with more global gold coming from assists and objectives, you get tankier junglers and supports. In those positions, it's easier to play a tank than it is to play a carry because, if you just get like a Sunfire Cape and a Spirit Visage, that isn't a tremendous gold sink, and it gives you some nice tank stats. So let's talk about the first champion that I wanted to mention, and that is Cassiopeia. Now, Cassiopeia is probably one of the highest skill cap champions in the game. However, she has tremendous sustained damage. A lot of times, mages are very bursty. Their damage is very front-ended. And tanks are really good against that. But Cassiopeia has tremendous sustained damage. She also synergizes really nicely with Liandry's Torment. If you get Liandry's and Rylai's, that makes her a kiting machine who's going to deal a lot of percent damage with her damage over time. She also has a really, really good counter engage ultimate, seeing as a lot of tanks are very hard engage type champions. If you specifically look at Nasus, Shyvana, Dr. Mundo, they're all champions that need to run at you, and Cassiopeia is really good just saying stop right there and stay where you are. However, she does have an extremely high skill cap, and she has an 80 carry-like playstyle, but with spells. So very, very high skill ceiling, and you must land your skill shots. However, if you can put all this package together, Cassiopeia is really, really good against tanks. Next up, I have Kayle. Kayle is probably going to be one of the next Flavor of the Month champions. You've been seeing her a lot in the EU LCS that I've been watching. She is a tremendous champion against tanks. She has a really unique combination of high burst and sustained DPS. If you get a Nashor's Tooth in combination with Lichbane, that gives her tremendous front end burst to one shot an 80 carry. If we've all seen that clip of Alex's Kayle just one shotting that 80 carry late game last season. However, she's also still really, really good against tanks because she has high sustained damage as well with her auto attacks. With a good amount of CDR, her E almost has 100% uptime, so she's almost 100% a ranged carry. Also, her passive shreds armor and MR, so that makes you really, really effective against tanks who are stacking armor and magic resist, and it helps out your team because you're shredding that armor, so your 80 carry is going to do more damage. She can also kite very effectively. With her Q, that's going to be a nice slow. Her W is a nice self-speed up. And her E, if you can learn to orb walk just like with an 80 carry, you can be really, really effective against these tanks. And she just has a lot of team utility. This doesn't really have anything to do with tanks, but, with her W and her R, you can save a lot of bad teammates, so it makes her a really strong pick in solo queue. The only thing I would say about Kayle is watch out for some matchups, specifically like Ziggs or Syndra, some of these longer ranged mages that can kind of stay out of your auto attack and your Q range. They can give you some fits in lane, but she's still a really good pick, specifically against tanks and assassins, which is kind of a unique mix. And then my last champion is Trundle. Trundle is really a cool champ. We actually recently saw him come out in the top lane. I believe it might have been Soaz, but he is probably one of the best designed champions in terms of countering tanks in the game. The big thing that Trundle does is he steals stats. His Q steals attack damage, and then his ultimate is the real kicker. It steals armor, magic resist, and health. So if you get these big, beefy champions, like Shyvana, she gets a lot of armor, magic resist from her passive. She stacks a lot of health in her itemization. You're basically taking advantage of that, and you're taking it for yourself. So it makes him very, very strong. He also is really good at peeling. A lot of times when you have all these tanks running at your carries, what you really need is peel. And his pillar is really, really good in terms of peel and disengage. He's also a really strong split pusher and a strong duelist. So this can just make him really hard to deal with, especially if your opponent, if they can't handle you and they're the tank, nobody else really can probably handle you. So it just makes him a really good champion. So anyways, those are 3 champions. We've got Trundle, Kayle, and Cassiopeia that I would highly recommend to deal with tanks. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you're new around here, feel free to rate and subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.